Every time one of these things happen, everyone wants to tar the whole religion with the same brush of extremism, which we don't do with other religions when people do it in, if they're extreme Christians or Hindus or whatever it may be. It's not the same rule applied.
When he threw himself in the fire, he was thinking to himself, I am a Muslim or I am an Australian. He dropped his entire interest. He risked his life, his physical body, his future, and he jumped into the fire to stop the killer. At that moment, he was not a Muslim. He did not have any identity. He was pure potential, pure humanity.
The world is waiting to see what are the reactions. Well, this is one reaction which we must see. This is the son of Hamas, Musab Youssef. Let's listen to his reaction to the massacre in Sydney, Australia on the first day of Hanukkah.
First of all, your reaction to this appalling terror attack in Sydney.
Well, this is horrible. This is the outcome of 2 years of hateful indoctrination, demonizing the Jews, dehumanizing and delegitimizing Israel. What we were expecting. This has been a jihad campaign against the Jewish minority, and most people are in denial. It started on October 7, and actually it started way before October 7. But instead of understanding Israel's position, that Israel had no choice but to fight and eliminate Hamas, the world accused Israel of committing genocide. Then so many false narratives were built on that theory that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And that led to the hatred against the Jewish people. It led to the Sydney attack, to Manchester attack. And it will lead to more attacks. Many times I said, falsehood will eventually lead to violence. False narrative of occupation, of genocide, of ethnic cleansing. Things actually don't exist in reality. There is a tragedy in Gaza. Nobody is celebrating this tragedy in Israel. No Israeli politician or citizen wanted to go into Gaza. It's not a fun trip. It's not a walk in the park. Israel, after the atrocity of October 7, had to send its best men to die in Hamas booby traps, where they cannot even differentiate combatant from civilian, where the terrorists, jihadists, used their own people as human shields. So the outcome has been catastrophic. We understand this. But the world, instead of understanding Israel's position, what they did, they have been accusing Israel. They have demonized the Jewish people. And now they want to go after, in a Jewish hunt, after the Jewish people worldwide. And nobody's stopping them. They're going unchecked. What did they mean when they said globalize the Intifada from the beginning? They triumphed on October 8th. They celebrated the atrocities against civilians. And since then, they have been saying globalize the Intifada. What did they mean by globalizing Intifada? It means taking it to Sydney, take it to New York, take it to LA. Just the other day, the FBI exposed a plot targeting Los Angeles for plans to attack simultaneously at New Year's Eve. And they are affiliated with the pro-Palestine. They are not jihadists, they are not Muslims, they are leftists. But their ideology now is free Palestine and free Hawaii. This is what the FBI found with those guys. So the hateful indoctrination does not go in void, Piers. This is what we need to understand.
So here's the question I have for you, because you know a lot about this issue. You know both sides of the issue. You've lived on both sides of the issue. Here you had in Sydney a situation where a father and son had clearly become radicalized. They'd been in Australia for a number of years, since the early 2000s in the case of the father. seemingly living normal lives in the communities. One slight red flag with the son a few years ago, which the authorities, perhaps wrongly as it's turned out, concluded was not serious enough to warrant further investigation about who he was associating with. And then they become full-blown ISIS, banners in their car, and they go and attack any Jewish people they can target. But we also saw a Muslim go in and display extraordinary courage in stopping one of these assassins, and for his trouble getting shot up, and is now in hospital recovering, thankfully. And it raises, I guess, the complexity of this, which is there are 2 billion Muslims in the world, and there are 15 million Jews. So a massive disparity in the numbers there. But people keep telling me, a lot of Muslims agree with these Islamists. A lot of Muslims share this feeling, to which my instinctive response is, well, if that is the case, if even you had 10% of the world's Muslims who felt that way, that's 200 million people. So there would be these atrocities happening all the time, and they're not. And in fact, I would go further and say that about 80 to 90% of all the victims of Islamist terrorism are fellow Muslims. Right? So it's not as straightforward as some people with their own agendas like to portray this issue. What do you feel about the reality here? How many of the Muslim population do you think share a hatred of Jews, for example? How many would have sympathy with Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or ISIS or whatever it may be? What is the reality here? Because if it was hundreds of millions, I would just assume the whole planet would be in flames all the time, and it's not. And I feel very strongly for Muslim friends of mine that I know, that every time one of these things happen, everyone wants to tar the whole religion with the same brush of extremism, which we don't do with other religions when people do it if they're extreme Christians or Hindus or whatever it may be. It's not the same rule applied. So what do you feel about that?
First of all, speaking of a father and son, as you know, my father wanted me to follow his footsteps of becoming a Hamas terrorist, basically. And this is when I dropped that idea, and I went against the interest of the family. On the other hand, I was born a Muslim myself. I studied Islam, I studied classic Arabic, I memorized huge portions of the Quran. I prayed to Allah 5 times a day. I was a devout Muslim. I was born in the mosque, literally in the mosque. I went to a Sharia school. I studied the Islamic law. But at some point, when I realized that it was a dead end, that it was leading to more violence, and that nothing could satisfy the Islamic ambition, I had to drop that Islamic identity. By the way, speaking of this hero in Sydney, and I tell you from personal experience that this man in that moment, he dropped all his identity. You think when he threw himself in the fire, he was thinking to himself, I am a Muslim or I am an Australian? He dropped his entire interest. He risked his life, his physical body, his future, and he jumped into the fire to stop the killer. At that moment, he was not a Muslim. He did not have any identity. He was pure potential, pure humanity. This is what we need to see. And after that, people labeled him a Muslim. Why? Because they have guilt. And especially the same crowd that has been demonizing the Jews and calling to slaughter the Jews, those are the ones who found opportunity to identify with heroism. They wanted to be heroism when it's convenient, when it suits their narrative. But they did not see the other side, the killer, the embodiment of evil who was shooting civilians. They should actually identify with the other side, with the dark side, because this is the actual manifestation of their hateful indoctrination over the last 2 years. They have celebrated October 7th. Then they celebrated ballistic missile attacks on civilians in Israel, where they ran like it was insane to see that celebration against civilians and the indiscriminate attack against civilians. And many of them, by the way, back in the day also celebrated suicide bombing attacks. So now the thing is the problem is not with the Muslims. The problem is with Islam itself, with jihad itself. And jihad is a unique concept only to the religion of Islam. You cannot find it in Christianity.
No,
you
but
cannot
right,
find
but
it
right,
in
but
Buddhism,
what I would say to that...
not in Hinduism.
Okay, but,
please just let me finish.
Okay.
It's important. Piers, please let me finish. So the thing is, the Muslims, the vast majority of Muslims are peaceful people. They don't want violence. This is the human nature. The human nature is against violence. This is what makes us different than the animals. But the problem, when Muslims identify with Islam, they give cover to the jihadists. And in many cases, they identify with something they completely oppose. And this is the identity crisis within Islam. And this is why I say to many of those peaceful Muslims who identify with Islam, and they could be in the hundreds of millions, who don't even know the Quran, who don't know the Islamic law, who don't know that they are actually required for physical and financial and social jihad. If they don't understand it, if they haven't gone to a Sharia school like I did, they go identifying because they think this is their ethnicity, but it's not. It's a label slapped on them. And I think in a moment where they have to choose between the higher interests of humanity or some identity given to them by their parents, they have to choose the higher interests of humanity. When I meet a Muslim, usually, as long as they haven't identified as a Muslim, I only see their individuality. I see a human being in front of me. And I am able to communicate with them on a personal level. Now, the moment they slap or they just raise the religious card, this is when I am concerned. This is when I don't trust that person. The only time when they identify as a Muslim. But if you really want to be a good person, you don't need actually to be anybody. You don't need the identity. You can just show me who you are through your practice, not through the theories that given to you, especially theories from the 7th century.
So here okay.
You know, Ahmad showed the entire world. Ahmad showed the entire world through practice.
So my answer,
practice.
But if I'm Mossad, if I was a Muslim listening to this, I'd say, okay, this guy used to be a Muslim, and he says we shouldn't identify as a Muslim. Okay, that's an argument, but you're a Christian convert. So my immediate response would be, if I was one of them, if I was a Muslim, I'd say, well, why do you identify as a Christian then? If you don't want people to be identified by religious labels, why did you convert to Christianity? Why do you call yourself a Christian? It's the same argument, it's just another religion.
Well, this is basically a label that is given to me. I don't identify. How many times we had conversations? I don't identify.
Well, let me ask
as a
you,
Christian.
are you a Christian?
I am influenced by the teachings of Yeshua. Okay, this is a very different thing. It inspired me, the principle of love thy enemy, of unconditional love, of forgiveness. So these were very important principles when I was finding my way out of Islam.
But are you a Christian or not? Are you a Christian or not?
But here, I don't identify as a Christian.
Okay.
Because what is Christian? What denomination? What book? What fellowship? If to identify as a Christian, it could be anything. It could be extreme Christian. It could be crusade.
My question, Mossad, why were you baptized in 2004 as a Christian?
It was a symbolic thing.
But why? Why would you do that?
I did not. It was symbolic. It was a symbolic event. You know, it was a closing chapter.
But surely symbolic of becoming a Christian. That's why you do it.
No, baptism for me, it was symbolic. And I get baptized every day. I have been a yoga practitioner for almost 15 years. I haven't been to a church for 15 years. So now you can also label me by things that I did some 15 years ago.
Well, who do you pray?
I don't pray, because usually when you have to pray, you have to ask for something materialist. I don't pray for anything.
Okay.
I'm responsible for my actions. And I don't need much in this life. All I need to just be able to breathe freely, be able to walk freely, and to see children out of the harm's way, to see women safe. This is where the society where I came from. And unfortunately, we look at the Muslim world. How do they treat their women? Forget about the West and the peaceful people, your friends that you hang out with and you have good time. Look at the Muslim world. How do they treat their women? How do they treat their children? The child abuse and the child indoctrination. This is what actually defines a society. And this has been my journey. That I overcome so many obstacles to find my freedom. And of course, I did not leave the religion of Islam to come to the religion of Christianity. Actually, for those who understand the essence of Yeshua's teachings, they find freedom out of religion. They don't go and lock themselves up in a church. This is why I don't identify.
Do you celebrate Christmas?
I don't celebrate holidays. For me, they are meaningless. For me, I celebrate life.
I only ask you, Mossad, because
when I wake up in the morning, it's like a new birth.
I understand. Look, I only ask you because I was going to end the interview, which has been fascinating. I always enjoy having you on Uncensored, but I was going to end the interview by wishing you a Merry Christmas. But in light of what you've just said, I won't.
You still can wish me a Merry Christmas. I'm not against it. So when I say I don't identify as a Christian, doesn't mean I don't celebrate with my Christian friends. Now we are celebrating Hanukkah. I am also happy to celebrate with Muslims, if they don't kill me, because I renounced my religion.
Okay.
So the thing is, we are all children of life, and we can always find the truth as long as we are truthful. We must drop the mask and stop pretending and just be truthful to who we are.
Mossad, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for coming back on Uncensored, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Mossad Yosef Hassan, God bless your soul, and God bless you for your bravery to have been able to understand and appreciate humanity, and your obsession now is about the living versus the way you grew up, which was about the dead. You are truly a legend. It's not too often that we get a chance to get a peek into the life of Hamas. You were born into it. You grew up with it. That was the only thing you knew. You grew up with hatred. You grew up with darkness, with death, with carnage in your future. And yet, God gave you the impetus, the epiphany, to realize that there are other options in life. What you presented here with Piers Morgan was spot on. And we really appreciate it. And I'm sorry that Piers really grilled you on several questions and you answered them very masterfully, as you always do. But it's not like you didn't tell this to us before. It's not like you didn't warn the world that this is what's coming. It has been very loud and clear. When we saw marches, pro-Palestinian marches, and they say the words, by any means, we now know what they mean when they're holding those banners, by any means. When the word global intifada, globalizing the intifada, is not just words, they're action. It's a call to action, globalizing the intifada. You know how far Australia is from Israel? What in the world do Jews observing Hanukkah peacefully on the beach of Australia have to do with the intifada that's going on in Israel? Globalizing the intifada. That has become the call to action to the death cult, murders, mercenaries, savage barbarics who are looking to create as much death and bloodshed, pain and suffering as possible to the Western world. When is the world going to wake up and realize that we are at war? This isn't just some one-off. These events are happening and repeating itself more and more, and they are a direct result of the incitement. When the countries allow the protests of such hateful, insightful protests, they are setting the stage for a massacre, and blood is on your hands. Absolutely. I can personally testify to that because I am a survivor of a mass shooting that occurred at our temple on April 27, 2019 by a anti-Semite who was incited on the internet, and he went out on board an AR-15 and breached our synagogue, the lobby, and shot and killed Lori Kay right in front of me as I was talking with her. And then he took aim at shooting and killing me. I heard children playing behind me. I ran towards them to save them. But he got 4 bullets off. These 2 fingers were hit by the bullets. He came with enough ammunition to kill every single person that was in the synagogue that day. Miraculously, they all survived as some brave men chased him out. But he was 19 years old, a direct result of the rhetoric that has been spewed on the internet and elsewhere, the anti-Semitism that has been allowed, not just tolerated, allowed and promoted amongst the society. It became fashionable to be anti-Semites, anti-Semitism. This must stop. How much more bloodshed does the world have to endure before it wakes up and says enough is enough? As Mr. Bibi Netanyahu has said many of times, as the Prime Minister of Israel, the war that Israel has fought the last 2 years in Gaza wasn't a war to defend Israel. It was a war to defend the Judeo-Christian and Western societies. This is a religious war. This is a war where they want to obliterate any religion that's not theirs. When is the world going to take off their blindfolds and take the head out of sand and realize that this is a very serious problem in the 21st century? They are pulling us back to the 7th century. We have moved forward. We have embraced the gifts that God has given us in the 21st century versus they are pulling us back. World, wake up and see the truth and understand that the Jewish people are good people. We have lived our life based on God and the Bible. We love life. We're obsessed with the living. We're obsessed with life. All we want to do is to be a light unto the nations. Who do you want to side with in this time of history? Do you want to side with a group of people who are just fighting to do everything right for the sake of humanity? Or do you want to side with a death cult that's all darkness, evil, death, carnage, even if they claim just a small percentage of 2 billion or millions, hundreds of millions? The world cannot accept another pre-Holocaust era. We lived through that in the 1930s. We're living through it right now. We have a chance now to stop it. Let's pray to God that we can stop it now and reverse whatever damages that were done. Those who don't want to live in this country peacefully and gratefully and gracefully and appreciate America should not stay in America. They should go back home if that's where you want to be. If you want to be here in America, do what my ancestors did when they came to America. They kissed the ground. They were grateful to be American. They respected the land. They honored the land. They were grateful for the land. They pledged allegiance to the United States of America and its Constitution. They chanted, "Long live America," not "Death to America." This must end. We must obliterate any hate rhetoric whatsoever. It's not free speech. It's hate speech. It's insightful speech. Those protests must be disbanded at any time. I'll never forget watching in Sydney, Australia, on the Harbour Bridge, the iconic Harbour Bridge. Thousands gathered together chanting hate to Israel, death to Israel. And the Australian government just allowed that to happen. Free speech? That's not free speech. That's a death call. December 14, 2025, Bondi Beach massacre is a result of that. The world needs to learn from this and not to allow free speech to create such carnage, death, and senseless, painless suffering to so many. God bless you. God loves you.